Hello and welcome to Making It, the podcast about making theatre and making it as an artist. I'm your host, Temi Wilkey, and each week I'll be chatting to an emerging playwright, theatre maker or theatre company about how they make theatre, why they make theatre, and what they do to survive. Ben Weatherill is a playwright, screenwriter and writer for radio. His debut full-length play, Chicken Dust, opened at the Finborough Theatre in London before transferring to the Curve Theatre in Leicester. His second play, Jellyfish, opened at the Bush Theatre in the summer of 2018 before transferring to the National earlier this year. The play is an incredible romantic comedy about Kelly, a woman with Down syndrome, and her boyfriend Neil. It explores their burgeoning relationship under the watchful gaze of Kelly's protective mother and everyone else who seems to have an opinion on a woman with Down syndrome dating a man who does not. It's such a beautiful play with so much heart and such finely drawn characters. It's constantly surprising, incredibly moving, and really, really funny. Thanks so much for joining me, Ben.
Oh, thank you for having me. That was really nice.
Aww.
It's like what somebody will write about you in your obituary, I
Oh my
think.
God. Such a morbid way of thinking about it.
Lovely. No, thank you for having me. I'm so
you're
excited to
welcome.
be here.
Yeah, it's really nice to have you. My first question is, how did you get into theatre?
How did I get into theatre? I think I always like performed. I think as a child, probably I used to rope. I've got 3 brothers and a sister. I used to rope them into kind of doing performances in the living room for mum and dad, which I think they hated at the time. At the time, but it's quite sweet, you know. I had an ensemble. Like I had more people in the plays at home than I usually get now. Cast of 5.
Were you writing those like shows or directing them or both?
I think writer director.
Right.
Now not so much. Now I stay in my lane. Yeah, so I always did that, and then my parents were really kind of encouraging in terms of like, well, this you can actually like do this, like go and perform. And I went to like a Saturday morning youth theatre. Is this the level of detail you want?
I love the details. I'm
very
obsessed with the detail. I really love it. Yeah, give me more.
So I did that, and my mum took me to London when I was about 10 or 11.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Leicester, Leicestershire, in a village called Ravenston.
Big up Ravenston.
Which is close to Ashby de la Zouch, which is where Adrian Mole famously lived.
Oh my God.
I know. Taste of fame. Yeah, so she took me to London and we saw Chicago with David Hasselhoff.
Oh.
And we saw Fame on the West End, and it was like kind of first. And we're in the Grand Circle, and it's the first time I'd ever been to like a proper theatre. And I kind of think so I fell in love with musicals first, and still love musicals now. And then I had a really encouraging drama teacher at sixth form and for GCSE as well. And kind of without that kind of drama department, I don't think I would have seen it as a legitimate kind of career. They were kind of really pushed me. I'm like, no, I think you've got something to say, because by that point I was writing every kind of performance.
Oh wow! In your sixth form.
Yeah, so I would write. You could either basically devise or something, or kind of do an established kind of Ibsen play or whatever. Yeah. I was much more interested in writing there and kind of got to grips with it. And then I went to drama school. I got into Central School of Speech and Drama. Didn't really like it. I didn't think it was for me. I didn't go as a performer. I did a slightly different course.
Oh, what was the course?
It doesn't exist anymore. It was called Performance Art.
Oh.
So it was very, they sold it in the interview. It was like, this is where the writers, directors, producers of the future are going to come and like develop their craft. And we got there and it was like, we're going to see how much mincemeat we can shove inside ourselves. And we're like, okay, we're here, we're going to do it.
Okay. Strap up.
For 3 years. But actually, I think I was probably quite close-minded during the course. I'd like to go back and do it now and kind of go, like all this amazing, like we had all these amazing artists come in and just kind of show us what weird and wacky things they were up to. And
it's such a funny like divide between like theatre and performance art and like what the line is, or like is there a line. So I guess like if you were going into it like I'm going to write for theatre, and then like you were sort of dealing with mincemeat. I
think I was just I think I was just completely overwhelmed by it, and it was quite a small group of people. So it was 18. There was 18, nearly 20 of us on this course, and I think there's a thing of when you go from your like small town where you're like quite a big fish. And then you go into these massive institutions and you're like, oh, I think I just felt like I was drowning a bit. I felt like I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was probably the youngest. I think everyone was slightly older than me. So it was interesting.
Did you take a gap year?
No, so I went straight into higher education, so at 18. But a lot of people had. So, there was people on the course that were like in their mid-20s, how old I am now.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, oh God, these are proper people, like adults.
I feel like when I went to uni, I was like, if I'd taken a gap year, I feel like I would have been able to handle this a lot better. I would have like known myself a bit more, especially with a sort of arts degree. Like it's like, oh, if I know myself a bit more, then I'll be able to get the most out of it, maybe.
I think so. Yeah, that's why I quite like to go back and kind of, I don't know, I'd love to do some studying now. If there was an opportunity to do that, because I think I just kind of seized the opportunity a lot more. I don't think I kind of did. But in our third year, there's a very long-winded way of telling you how I got into theatre.
Love it.
In the third year, we could do what we wanted. We had the whole year. So I wrote a play. Somebody else on the course directed it, and we put it on at the Old Red Lion for a couple of nights.
Amazing. And what was that called?
That was called Taste Like Chicken, which is different to Chicken Dust. Just all my plays have animals in the title.
Usually chickens, but we can defer to sea creatures sometimes.
Big fan of poultry. So I wrote that, and it was about gay parenting and about the head of the PTA coming over to this gay couple's house for dinner and being like, "Can you not kiss in the playground?" Basically. Oh, wow. That was the premise. And
that feels like so prescient now, especially as well.
Yeah, probably more so now, actually. Kind of back, when did I write that? It was like 2013.
Oh, wow.
So that's 6 years ago. And it's something that I kind of go, well, I would like to revisit that.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, it was really, especially because rereading it, I think I would go, oh God, that is definitely like 20-year-old me writing that. So writing it now, I think there'd be much more that I could kind of dig into, But I'd love to kind of just, revisit that kind of theme. I think that'd be great. Anyway, so from there, I kind of, invited everybody that I could. Please come and see this play.
Yeah.
And the artist director of the Old Red Lion at the time approached me and said, "Oh, we don't actually have a literary manager. You like theatre."
That's so cool.
Which is kind of amazing.
So that was that in your final year at Central?
At Central.
That's amazing.
I mean, it was an unpaid position. I mean,
okay.
Sorry to talk about money, but
no, we must. We need to. It helps us all.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you go, oh, I was a literary manager at the Old Red Lion, which is amazing and incredible opportunity. But it was also unpaid. Yeah. I think there was a little bit of money to pay like script readers, like a small fee to read, but I didn't take any fee. But there was just a cupboard full of scripts. They hadn't like basically looked at it in years. So the play that goes wrong was in there.
Oh wow.
That was the kind of thing that came out of that cupboard that we were like, this is just inside it.
And so it was kind of your job to like leaf through all of those, like.
Yes, I mean the Old Red Lion. I don't know how it works now, but they used to be. It was visiting companies basically.
Right.
So they didn't have any money to kind of produce their own work. So it was more like, this company sent us this in. What do we think? Do we want it kind of? Does it fit into the program? Yeah. So it was more of that kind of work.
It's such an interesting like route. I feel like there are lots of writers who have been or are literary managers, and like it feels like being able to read loads of plays must like make you so like. Recognize what a good play is or the different things that a play could be.
Yeah, it taught me loads to just kind of read different voices as well. Just like, I haven't heard from this person, or like that. I would never have thought of telling a story in that way. So, and also you read brilliant stuff, and you also read some stuff where you go, oh,
why didn't that work?
Yeah, why didn't that work? Or that's, that choice there, is something I need to avoid, or
like this is underdeveloped, like this particular strand of this story.
Yeah, and I was figuring it out for myself. So like, I imagine my majority of my opinions were wrong, but I was figuring it out and kind of learning on the job. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then decided that I should actually write my own stuff. I can't call myself a writer if I'm not doing any writing. So I then went and wrote Chicken Dust. Actually, that's a lie. I wrote the first 10 pages of Chicken Dust because Curve Leicester had competition for their playwright in residence. So I wrote the first 10 pages, submitted that, and then luckily I was given that residency. So it was the first time I got any money from writing. They paid you £1,000, and it was over 6 months, and you wrote the play. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I really love any scheme that's like, write 10 pages. Like that's I did the intro to playwriting group with the Royal Court, and like the way that you get into that is by like you can write 10 pages, or you can have 10 pages from a play that you've already written. I just feel like that's so good, because it just means that it feels achievable and surmountable. If you've never written a play before, it's like, okay, great, I can do 10 pages. Like that's manageable.
Like 10 pages is fine.
Yeah.
It's very achievable.
I could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, and also you get a really good idea of what the thing is and what somebody's voice is, I think, in 10 pages.
Yeah.
Especially for schemes and etc. Because I'm like, well, you can't, or you shouldn't expect a fully formed thing to come through. It should be the start of something. So I think it's really important to kind of be like, let's see how you've kind of like got yourself on the track, and then we're going to show you, or help you, assist you, encourage you to kind of, finish the thing. That's what I needed, was somebody to kind of go, we're gonna help you finish this. We're gonna support you. And there's a legitimate thing at the end of this, because there was a reading at the Finborough. There's a legitimate thing at the end of this, and we're working towards that, and that's what I needed at the time.
Yeah, because I think not only the financial help, but also like the institutional help, but also like a mindset. It's like, you are a writer, we're going to support you. I feel like that makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, and just having someone who's like, I'm overseeing this.
Yeah.
It's my job to kind of make sure you're doing your job.
Yeah.
I respond well to. I respond well to kind of authority. I'm sure there's people that will go, no, you don't. You really, really don't. But yeah, I think I like a strong deadline and strong parameters, and kind of being like, I like structure, I think.
So when did you start writing? Because you sort of said that you were writing like sort of plays like in sixth form, but like, were you writing before that? Like, what was that kind of the actual like Ben with a pen vibe?
Ben with a pen. My autobiography. I think I read a load of Jacqueline Wilson novels.
Oh my God, yes, me too. Love Jacqueline Wilson.
Suitcase Kid, Dustbin Baby,
Yeah.
all of that, Lola Rose. I read a load of Jacqueline Wilson, and so I started writing my own kind of versions of those books. I basically would rewrite them.
Like fan fiction.
Basically, yeah. And actually, speaking of fan fiction, I used to write a lot of Holby City and Casualty fan fiction.
Oh my God.
I know.
Are you listening, producers?
Just used to write all the time. The BBC used to have message boards. I don't know if you remember this.
No, I don't.
Where anybody can kind of, there'd be one for EastEnders, so EastEnders fans could kind of communicate with each other.
Oh my God.
But there was it was a fan fiction kind of message board for Casualty and Holby City. So I used to write my stories about Charlie and Duffy and.
Oh my God, incredible! I was on Holby City.
Were you?
Yeah, I was like 11, so maybe it was like around the same time.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, I was literally just on
exciting.
one episode, and I think I just like had 2 lines.
Were you playing
but
a sick person?
I was playing a sick person.
Did you die?
I don't know if I died. I don't think so.
That's good.
But yeah.
So they can bring you back. That's the important thing.
So true. As a doctor.
But I was here. It was 10 years ago. Look at me now. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of that basically, which, and I would download. It was television really that kind of got me into it. I would download TV scripts or pilots and kind of write my own episodes.
So cool. How old were you?
This is really sad. So no.
It's not sad. It's really cool.
I was probably about 13, 14.
That's amazing. I don't think I even had thought about the fact that TV shows had scripts, but to have the like gumption, I don't know if that's the right word, but like to think, I'm going to download the scripts and then read them and then write. That's incredible.
I think I think it was just, I mean, because we lived somewhere where also there was like one bus every like 90 minutes, etc. And I come from a big family, so we spend lots of time together. But I think that's where I found like my peace and quiet, was kind of like, oh, I'm gonna write. Or, and the BBC Writers' Room, I discovered fairly early on that they would put all the script, they still do, they still have that script library. So it was about downloading them and going, well, what has that person done? How are they telling this story. I know.
That's so cool. No, that's so cool that you're doing that from a young age. I just think that's amazing. Like,
I was just really interested in it. I was it was television I was obsessed with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was kind of, but then I found theatre and it was an actual physical thing I could go and do.
Yeah.
I kind of fell into it that way.
That is so, I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone who's like had that drive and that like recognition of what you want to do.
I was
so
obsessed.
young. That's so cool.
Obsessed, yeah. And I guess I was really lucky in that way because I was like, this is the thing that I really want to do.
Yeah.
And I had really good teachers. I think that's also something that I don't think is recognised enough, is that I was fortunate to kind of have really good English teachers, the majority of them, and really good kind of drama teachers who I guess were able to recognise and go, we're going to steer this person, which, is why it's important to have creativity in state schools.
And amazing teachers.
Yes, and kind of the best. Encouraging the best people to become teachers because I think that I owe a lot to those people.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they should be paid lots more.
Yes, having been a teacher myself as well.
Oh, were you a teacher? When were you a teacher?
So that was my day job basically.
Right.
Whilst alongside
so
writing.
Where does that fit into the timeline with Leicester Curve?
So I got Leicester Curve. Sorry if I'm jumping around.
No, I love it.
So I got Leicester Curve, was doing that residency, but at that point I was ushering still. Because I was living in London. So I ushered at the Savoy Theatre when Legally Blonde was on, and that was very fun. We also did the Sunshine Boys with Danny DeVito and Richard Griffiths.
Oh, wow. I don't think I knew that was on.
Oh, yeah.
Did I miss out?
Yeah, Richard Griffiths was an absolute tour de force backstage. He was like...
Backstage?
He was like this incredible character. And Danny DeVito was obsessed with taking pictures of people with his foot in them.
What?
So there's a photo of me with Danny DeVito's foot somewhere. I think he still does it online.
Weird.
If you look at, he's called Troll Foot. I think if you go and find Danny DeVito, there's lots of pictures of his feet.
This is amazing.
I don't know if I hope it's not sexual. Probably not. Let's just assume it's not. That would be completely unusable. You'd be like, we can't say that.
No, I'm sure it's fine. Danny, if you're listening.
Should be tuning in. So I was doing that, and then I ushered at the Book and Morning for a while, and I just couldn't afford to kind of do it. I just wasn't earning enough. So a friend of mine was like, I'm doing teaching assistant work through an agency, and it's like 110 quid a day, and it's like 9 till 3. And you get to go in and then you get to leave. And there's he made it sound very easy. So let's go and do that. Because I wasn't seeing any theatre either. I was ushering 8 shows a week. So it's kind of like the thing that I really enjoy doing. I'm not doing I'm seeing the same show 8 times a week.
Which can be helpful to a point, but...
I mean, the Book of Mormon's fantastic, but I'm like, after you've seen it 100 times, it's like, I don't think there's that much I'm going to get out of it. So I went and did that at a school in Paddington, and I really enjoyed it actually. I was a teaching assistant there for about 3 years, and I was slowly taking on more and more kind of responsibilities for the class, and they said, we can actually employ you as kind of an unqualified teacher and you can have your own class, which is then what I ended up doing.
Wow. And so how many years were you teaching? Was it 3 years?
In total, I was at the school for like 5 years. So...
Even more reason why I think you should return to this incredible play. Because you actually have experience in schools as well.
Yeah, so it's I can draw on that. I think that I have a huge respect for kind of the education, the system and teachers in general, and I definitely kind of want to write about that. It's just kind of figuring out all the ingredients. And also giving myself some distance from it as well.
Yeah, that's important.
I finished teaching in October.
Oh, wow.
So
quite recently.
Yeah. No, that's a lie. Last October. Oh my God, it's October now, isn't it?
Oh, wait, but you mean like October 2018?
2018.
Yeah,
not like
that's...
today.
Yesterday.
I quit today.
We are recording in October, in case you're wondering. Yeah. And so what led to you being able to like sort of leave teaching?
Telly work.
Because was that... Actually... I want to ask you like what the process was of getting Jellyfish programmed, and then maybe that'll lead well into that.
So Jellyfish, I wrote a first draft of it. I kind of I knew I wanted to write a rom-com. I'm a big fan of them, big fan of Richard Curtis, big fan of all those kind of. Yeah, I just love rom-coms, to be honest. A bit of a sucker for them. But
it's very interesting to like start knowing what genre you want to work with. I think that's a really interesting way of like going about writing something.
Yeah, I'd not done that before. I'd never kind of gone, I want to do this thing. But I think I was after Chicken Dust. I was like, the next thing I want to do is something that because I wrote Chicken Dust quite quickly, and
And what was Chicken Dust about?
It was about the kind of human cost of meat farming. So it was about 6 chicken catchers on a farm in Leicester. Because when you go in and catch chickens, you have to pick up 8 chickens at a time by their feet.
Right.
And then carry them out and kind of kill them. Which is...
very different from a rom-com.
Yes, which is very different. So it's kind of about this, it's kind of this urban... Well, not urban, really. What's that word? I meant rural, kind of folk tale about whether or not we've kind of destroyed the countryside for cheap meat. So it was an ensemble piece, and I knew that the next thing I wanted to write would be completely different. And I knew that it would, because I'd written Chicken Dust quite over the period of a year, I knew that it was probably going to take me longer than that to do my next thing.
And why did you feel like it would take you longer?
Because the residency had kind of come to an end, and I was kind of treading water a bit. And
right. And so without the support of an institution, you felt like it would take you a while.
Yeah, I was like, I don't quite know how to get in, the next step. I think that's quite common. Yeah. It's kind of you've done your first thing, or I've done this, but I don't quite know how to build on that. Yeah. There's no one way to do it, I guess. So I knew that I wanted to submit something for the Bruntwood Prize. So that was kind of my deadline. Yeah. I was kind of like, I'm going to do that. Yes. I was like, I'm going to impose this on myself. Yeah, I'm completely the same. Yeah, do you have to kind of do you feel that
if
way?
I know that it's like I've got something to work towards, then it's like I've got a deadline, like I have to write something, like so I'll do it. Are you good
at sticking to them?
Usually, if it's an external pressure, usually. Or like if I know that someone's waiting for it, like I had a deadline recently where I set the deadline. The person that I was sending it to like wouldn't be able to read what I needed to write for ages, but just knowing that someone was waiting for it, just an outside figure, meant that I like sort of stuck to it a bit better.
I always feel like if it's off your desk, it's on someone else's, and that's the only way you keep momentum. It's just get it off your desk.
And so you're building towards the Bruntwood Prize.
Yeah, so that's what I was doing. Sorry, yes, thank you.
No, not at all.
This is why this is your job, isn't it? Yeah, so I was trying to build towards the Bruntwood Prize, knew that I wanted to write a rom-com, kind of was investigating who we hadn't seen in that genre. That was kind of my next step. And I thought about people with learning disabilities, and I'd read a brilliant book called Strands, which was about a mother and a daughter who kind of walked along the beach and catalogued everything they found every year. So that was my starting point, was about this mother and daughter on the beach. And I wrote an early draft, which was 5 scenes. The boyfriend was in 1 scene, and it was all set on the beach. And I sent that off to the Bruntwood Prize. They came back with some really useful feedback, and I did some redrafting on that. And in between that time, I then went and saw Sarah in a play at the Royal Exchange called Crocodiles, and she was incredible. I kind of thought her performance was mesmerising.
This is Sarah Gordy.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah Gordy, yes. And knew that I wanted to get the play into her hands, because by this point I'd done lots of research, etc., but it was about finding that kind of like authentic voice. And then by that point, sorry, this is quite convoluted, but Nina Steiger, who is now at the National, she works in the New Work department, was at Out of Joint. Right. And she read it while she was at Out of Joint and gave it to Tim Hoare, who then went on to direct Jellyfish. So he read it then, asked me for kind of a meeting. We met up and spoke about Sarah. And by the time we got round to doing anything about it, Nina had moved over to the National. And so luckily she was able to give us some time in the studio there. Amazing. With Sarah to kind of work through it. So that kind of was the first time that I'd had any kind of R&D. So we were there for a week. We got Sarah in. Everyone was like, well, we're just going to figure out how this thing works because we're not really sure. We did a reading on the Friday. The Bush came. Stuart Pringle, who was at the Bush at that time, came and saw it. And that was where the conversation kind of developed. And we're like, well, can we move this over to the Bush? And that's kind of how that happened. But, that makes it sound quite quick. I was working on Jellyfish for about 2.5, 3 years before any of that kind of happened. But that time I think was really beneficial. I think it was not something that was worth rushing.
Yeah, and it sounds like a really brilliant model for people who want to write stories that are like diverse in so many ways, neurodiverse, like ethnically diverse, just like putting someone else's experience at the forefront of it and making sure that they're a part of that process, that creative process.
Yeah, I think I was always of the opinion, and Salam, that if we're gonna do this, then it should be done in the right way with the right people. And it's not Sarah's story, so it's not autobiographical, but I wanted that voice and kind of, and also just being like, I don't know about this, so is this a daft question? Is this right? Is this the truth? And in my head, it was about, is this the truth for this character? Not for this community, because so often new work about people we haven't heard from before becomes about speaking for an entire community.
And that's not possible.
It's not possible, and it's not
too
fair.
Much pressure, on the work.
Well, I don't know how you feel about this, but I always think it's like, well, then you're kind of putting this undue pressure on this thing to kind of do everything for everybody, and therefore it's more likely to kind of not fail, but more it's going to have more kind of pressure on it. And that's not how you make good work.
It's not like helpful for creative, like it doesn't help creativity at all. And also it's like, it's a shame because like that is a really valid feeling from the community that it feels like it represents. But then at the same time, it's like if there was more diversity in work more generally, then that pressure wouldn't happen. And so it's like, it's like if there was more diverse work, then you wouldn't feel that pressure. But like, how do you get that work on unless that work is good? Vicious cycle.
Very vicious. And then there's the other side of that is the venues going, or institutions going, well, we've done that. We've had our play about disability now. We don't need to do it again. And it's like, well, no, it's about finding, diversity in those stories as well. It's kind of like, no, you need to open it up. You can't. So I could go on about that for a while, but I think that for me it was always about putting that character of Kelly at the centre of it and making sure that she felt authentic and real and completely separate from not separate, but distinguishable from the community that she was there to represent, if that makes sense.
Totally.
If that's the right word.
Because not. It's like making her playful and flawed, and like it's not like this is a woman who represents everyone who has Down syndrome. This because that would be general and not interesting.
It's and it's about it was a love story. So I was like, well, that's what it needs to be first, and then everything else comes second. It's secondary. All of that stuff.
That's so interesting. Like starting with the genre and then starting with how you kind of want to deviate from what you've seen before is such an interesting way of doing it.
I found that really useful because it was like, well, we know what the tropes are. We know what we expect. We know we want a first kiss. There'll be a breakup. There'll be so all of that was kind of inherently inbuilt in the thing. And it was going, well, how do we subvert that, or how do we lean into that and make people question themselves, or make it slightly uncomfortable, or the first kiss between a man who has a woman who has Down syndrome and a man who doesn't, a man who's neurotypical, is actually something that I don't think I've ever seen before.
No.
And was tricky to manage, but it was like, well, no, but it should, why not?
Yeah, and interrogating why that's tricky and why, it's just such a rich play. I like reading it, I just like felt like there were so many moments where there's such a push and pull between how you feel. Like I wish I'd seen it because I feel like I would have been like,
there was something about kind of Sarah's energy and performance that kind of made you at once really, really comfortable with what was unfolding, but also then it's such a like a visceral. That's why theatre was kind of perfect way to tell it, because it's such a visceral thing to see it happen in front of you and have whatever reaction. I think it was unexpected for some people who, because the theatre audience tends to, like to pat itself on the back and go, "Oh, we're so liberal, like, and like of course we're down with this."
Yeah.
And then you go, "Oh no," when we're confronted with this issue, that I didn't know how I felt about, and I learned loads, especially because it's a romantic comedy, but it deals with issues of consent, it deals with issues of kind of like power dynamics in relationship, and does everybody really have the right to love who they choose? And I think, for me, it was about going, no, I want you to actually really consider it.
Yeah. Rather than starting off like, I know exactly what I think and I'm going to leave this theatre knowing exactly what I thought as soon as I came in.
Yeah, because I don't want to go to the theatre and do that.
Yeah, what's the point?
It's a bit like it's preaching to the choir. It's like, I don't know. I like to be challenged.
Yeah.
Do you?
I do, yeah. I do.
Yeah, I think that...
But it's so nice when you're challenged and moved and like you're laughing loads and it's I love it being challenged when it's part of all of that.
Yeah, I think a play should like make you change your mind 3 times. That's my kind of unwritten rule. Because I don't want to just have what I think confirmed. I want to kind of have it. I want to be proved wrong in a way, and then proved right. Or I want to. Yeah, I need to go on that journey. Otherwise. There's no point me sitting in a dark room 2 hours. With the anyway. That's
a fantastic point. I'm going to take that personally as a note when I start about redrafting things.
It's probably a load of rubbish.
No, it's really cool. It's really cool. I'm wondering what your process is like how you write, what a working day looks like for you.
I try and do, if I have meetings, I try and put them all on one day. Because I find working and then having to go out and meet somebody just breaks up the flow, which I now have the luxury of being able to do that because I'm freelance full time. Whereas before I was kind of like, I can only meet you at 4:30 because that's when I can get there from school.
Yeah.
So I try and put all my meetings on one day because that seems sensible. And then the other kind of 4 days, it depends what I'm working on, but I'm much better in the afternoon. I'm terrible in the morning, which is which is probably why I'm terrible this morning. But I just cannot do it. So I need a cup of tea.
Yeah,
I need to That's why you were speaking about morning pages earlier.
Yeah.
When I arrived, and maybe that would be something that's actually I can take away and go, oh no, that might be useful.
Well, that actually came from an earlier recording with Jasmine Lee Jones, so I'm going to ascribe that to her.
Well, thank you, Jasmine. I think that maybe because my brain's just full of stuff, I just need to get it out in the morning, and maybe I'll be better. But yes, the afternoons are better, so I usually will write. For me, a good writing day will be if I can do 4-5 hours. I start writing as quickly as possible. If I'm working on something new, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll do my initial kind of research and then I'll be like, I just think trying to get it down on the page as soon as possible is useful for me, even if I don't know who's speaking. So I very rarely have character names. I don't do that bit of admin. I'll just write a line.
So do you write with pen and paper, or is it a laptop?
I used to always write with pen and paper, and then I'm terrible at losing things. So I was... last week I left my laptop on a train in Leicester. No. Yeah.
Did you get it back?
I got it back. Okay. Thanks East Midlands Trains. But that's just I'm awful. It's something that I have to acknowledge, and I'm trying to get better at. But I'm awful. I've left the house this morning. I don't know where my keys are, but it's fine. I'll work it out. So I used to write with pen and paper, and then that's not going to work because I was constantly losing the notebooks, no matter how carefully I tried to take care of them. So now I always write on a laptop, unless I'm really struggling with something, and then I'll go back to I think the actual visceral thing of writing
Yeah.
can sometimes be really good rather than typing.
So as in, like, you might go back to something that you've already written, like, on your laptop, and then you'll be like, actually, I need to readdress this.
Yeah, so then I'll you know, if I'm redrafting, I'll sometimes redraft the scene on paper, or if I'm like, I'm really struggling with this.
Yeah.
I'll go and put the laptop away and try and do it on paper.
Yeah.
My rule is that I never leave an empty page for me to come back to. So at the end of every writing day, I might go, next scene, she kills him or whatever. Or, you know, she asks X to do Y. Even if that's completely wrong the next day, I like having something to come back to.
Right, yeah.
Because the empty page
Freaks you out.
I don't like it. So it's like I need the next step. To the point of, I'm very kind of strict with myself of like, if I've finished something for that day, I'm not going to, even if I'm in the flow, I'm like, I just kind of need to put pause on it and come back to it, because I'm terrified of sitting down and going, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But everybody's different. That's why I don't know about, do you handwrite? Do you?
Yeah, it's so interesting hearing you talk about it, because I do handwrite, but it's usually just for the first draft or like some of the first draft. And it's mainly because if I type it, it will feel too real, and then I'll remember that I'm writing and then I'll freak myself out.
Right.
But if I buy notebooks, especially so that they're rubbish, like really ugly rubbish notebooks. Like if I have a nice one, then I can't write in it because I'll
cannot deface them.
Yeah, with my rubbish ideas. So I sort of write a shit first draft, like with pen and paper, and it's like scribbled and scrawled, and like there's no character names. It's just like, oh, I'm just scribbling. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Like, nah, don't worry about it. Just so that's kind of, and then I sort of transfer it onto a laptop when I'm like, okay, no, there's some good in this. I'll like type it up and improve it as I go along.
Yeah, that's good.
But I know what you mean about the visceral, like relationship that you have with actual pen and paper. I think that's almost why that sort of first bash at a scene feels like it's helpful for me for pen and paper.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, it's also like really disposable. It's like, well, no one needs to see this.
Yeah,
it's in a notebook.
It's not real.
Yeah,
it's fine.
But if I commit it to the laptop, then it's saved. It's on the hard drive.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like to do a draft 0. Rather than the first draft, and
I call it the shit draft. I'm like, it's a shit draft. It's just a shit draft. It's not real.
Yeah, drafts. You know, the shit draft. That's what I should start calling it.
No, I like draft 0 as well.
Like,
that's cool.
I'm not, because I'm not going to show this to anyone, or you know, if I do, it'll either be another playwright or somebody. I tend to show a lot of work to my mum.
Oh, cool. That's so cool that you have that relationship.
I've just been like, what is this shite? And also, she's also like very good at kind of going, that doesn't make any sense, or kind of like, she's very kind of honest, and anyway, yeah. So I will show a lot of work to my mum, which is, take what such a mummy's boy. And then I will kind of then I'll go and do a first draft after, I've got feedback on that shit draft. But sometimes I'll go, this is the shit draft and I'm not going to show it to anyone. This is just this is literally just me getting it down on paper and seeing where the lay of the land lies once I've reread it. Reading out loud I do a lot of. I'll get people to read with me, which I'm sure they really hate, but I'm like, there's just something about hearing it out loud, especially when it's not actors doing it. So I'll rope in my brother, or I'll rope in my husband, or I'll rope in,
still roping them in.
just be like, can you read this with me? Because they're not, someone like my brother is not not a trained actor, so it's like hearing the words come out of somebody's mouth who's not going to try and improve them for you is brutal, but also really handy, because like that's literally how it sounds. Those words in that order,
no fluff on it.
Because I think actors are amazing, because they're gonna make it work. They're gonna figure it out. And it's like, no, I just need the brutal kind of reality of what I've put down on the page. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting, like, now that you say that, I sort of like can hear that in your writing. Like, it's like, this could be said in any way, like, and if someone just read it, it would have loads of emotional impact in a way that, like, I think you can rely on good actors, like, in your writing, and be like, this is maybe not the best way of putting this, but I know that I could trust somebody to sort of perfume these words.
Yes. Yeah, that's sort of what I mean.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, like when you're talking about when you first like got into theatre, like sort of roping in your brothers and sisters and how you sort of still do that. Like,
yes.
And also like, it sounds like you get people involved in your process quite early on, like with like meeting Sarah and like getting her involved. Like it's just interesting that you give your play to other people kind of early on.
Oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but I think I guess I like making it not my responsibility, even though, you know, I'm quite in some ways I'm a bit of a control freak, but in other ways I'd like the kind of handing over and going, you know, this is because theatre, you know, inherently is supposed to be collaborative. I think that kind of getting other people's brains on it is just the best thing to do. Only when you're ready.
When would you say you usually are ready? Like if it's not the ship draft, like is it draft 3, 4? Like when do you usually?
No, probably earlier than that. Probably around the second draft. I'll show it to kind of people I trust. I'll show it to people I kind of have either had previous relationships with or who I can kind of trust to give my honest opinion. Give their honest opinion. Tell me what I want to hear. But I think it's, for me, the sooner I can kind of get it out into the world and it kind of exists, it becomes like a very real thing.
Yeah.
But also there's a danger in like, maybe I share stuff too early. I don't know. Maybe, I kind of...
Wouldn't think so. I mean, I guess it's about your process and like what you find the most helpful.
Yeah.
And like, I just think it's so interesting that, you know, you've written a play about like a woman with Down syndrome and you don't have Down syndrome, and like sort of that generosity of like giving it away early feels like a really important part of the process and why that play was so incredible. And it feels like, yeah, it's just like the way that you write and the subject matter that you choose to write about and maybe like benefits that way of doing it.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. Yeah, I definitely. I think, you know, I'm much more about, I write about things that I am unsure of or want to know more about. I think writing about myself it would be very dull and very boring. I'm much more writing about what you know is not my process. It's much more about going, this thing I want to figure out, or I'm curious about, or, you know, I want to know why. Yeah. And in order for me to kind of write about that, whatever it is, authentically or kind of truthfully or responsibly, I have to bring, and I should bring other people in and kind of and figure it out. And
I think that's so interesting because like that's sort of the first mantra, like write what you know. And I think that's so interesting that you're like, nah.
I just don't. I think that people can become trapped in, you know, you do this thing, or, you know, you tell stories like this, and it's like, well, no, people should just tell the stories they want to tell, as long as they're not encroaching on somebody else's right to do so, or doing it irresponsibly. I think that, you know, things should be open to everyone. The sad reality is, right now, they're not.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going, well, if I'm going to tackle this subject about disability without having a disability, I'm gonna do it in a way that I think is responsible and kind of sends the ladder back down rather than pulling it back up. Do you know what I mean?
Totally,
I don't know.
Totally.
I still feel a bit. I don't know. I still feel a bit eggy about it. Like I still go. You know, less so when we did it again at the National. The first time around, I was very like, oh, I don't know whether this is just the completely wrong thing to be doing. But the second time around, I was like, no, because I'd seen it kind of work.
And
kind of that was the pleasure of having a year off and kind of being like, what would we change? Because there were changes. You know, I added a scene to the first half which isn't in the like published draft of it, which was about them having sex for the first time and you see her give consent, etc.
Right.
Which I thought was really important and was implicit the first time around that she did and was capable of doing so. But I think it was more about let's see that. Let's see
Yeah.
how that's negotiated. That's important. Which is why I think it's important to let writers have another crack at something, or have a journey and going, well, yes, you may have done it at, the Bush or whatever, but we can support you in this way to kind of further the life of it. That doesn't always happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think like it's so interesting about like ascending the ladder down, because I think what a gift to an actress with Down syndrome. Like what an amazing gift. Like, and it's like, I think it's so cool when you think about the longevity of your play, not just like the run that it's had or the runs that it's had, but like in 10 years, like someone will be able to come across that and play that. And it's such an incredible part. Like, and I think that's such an exciting thing to have created. And like also inspires people to like make more of it, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's hopefully the things that I wanted to draw attention to were Sarah Gordy and Nikki Priest, who was also in it, who played a character with Nikki would say himself he's got Asperger's syndrome. So it was about kind of drawing attention to these like two fantastic people that we'd found, not found, but were working.
Yeah.
And going, yeah, like look at these performances.
Yeah.
Like, and then secondly, making sure the flip side of that was making sure that the work wasn't made in a vacuum and wasn't seen by one type of person.
Yeah.
And I'm very big on kind of like, how do you make this as accessible as possible? Because it's work about disability.
Yeah.
There are going to be access needs. There are access needs for every show. That's me being quite presumptuous, that because it's about disability, disabled people want to go and see it. What I mean is, we should be working towards that level of access on every show.
Yeah.
But specifically this show.
Especially,
putting special emphasis here, because this is it was the first time, work had been done of that nature in the Dorfman, at least.
Yeah.
I'm probably wrong about that, but it's one of the only times I should say. So I think it's those two things, kind of like making the work, but also kind of making sure the work is able to be seen by people who might want to see it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I probably explained that really badly.
No, you explained it really well. Knowing that the national, or like, was it Nina? What was her?
Nina, yes.
Yeah.
Nina's, I don't remember what her job title is over there now, but yeah, Nina Steiger's over there.
Yeah. So she was kind of involved in it, or like had known about it from the get-go. And so it going on at the Bush and then transferring was kind of like, maybe, you probably weren't expecting it, but like, feels like, yeah, it was like a linked step at least.
Yeah, and because Stuart Pringle, who was the dramaturg of the Bush, had then gone over to the National. So I think that I think it's important to acknowledge that yes, it had champions in both those buildings, and we were really lucky to have that. And that's why my advice to anyone is to kind of like stick as close to those people who you think like your work, and like, who will champion you and kind of develop and foster those relationships, because that's how stuff happens.
Yeah.
So that it was, I didn't expect it to transfer at all. Everybody at the end of a show goes, yeah, we're going to do this again. And everyone kind of goes, yeah, sure, we will. Never. As if we got the money to do it the first time.
Yeah.
So when this slot came up at the National, because it was like a 2-week slot, we kind of leapt at it and was like, yes, we want to do that, please. And it was the first, there's such a big difference, which may sound obvious, but like such a big difference between the Bush studio, where it's like 60, 70 people, and then 450 people.
Yeah, wow, yeah. And how did that kind of, do you feel like that changed an audience's relationship to the play? Yeah,
I mean, in some ways, like it was less intimate, for sure. Because literally we had sand on the floor at the Bush, and it was like you could put your feet in it and they were right there in front of you. Whereas, obviously the Dorfman, it's slightly, we had a, proscenium march and it was more detached, I guess. But also I didn't realise that it was funny. I mean, it was obviously we got laughs, etc. But 450 people in a room give themselves much more permission to kind of act as a unit,
Wow,
I think,
yeah.
because there's less kind of extremity, there's less, it's less exposing, I guess.
Yeah,
for
to
an
laugh
audience.
when there's lots of people.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, it became much more of a romantic comedy, what I thought it was. And I'm so privileged that we got to that again, because it became a different play in my head. I was like, oh, this is this is the thing that I really, really wanted to make.
Yeah.
Not to say that the Bush version was not an incredible experience, because it was, but it was having a year on and coming back to it and going, let's push these things that were really kind of important at the centre of it. And because of the nature of the show, you know, we spent a lot of time working on Act 1 with Sarah and Nikki, etc., and kind of got that really tight. And then we didn't have as much time with Act 2. So it was kind of going, oh, let's focus here. Let's focus on these bits that were not as fully formed, or were kind of, you know, the things that were my fault. Kind of going, these bits are kind of awkward. Yeah.
I think it's so interesting to be able to have a second go at something, like what you can then improve. But also it's so interesting that like the audience lives in a different way, like the play lives in a different way in front of a different kind of audience or different size of audience. That's so interesting. And it came more into its own and what you initially imagined for it, like with a bigger audience. I love that. It's also interesting to me because it's like, you know, if my play transferred to the National, I'd be like, wow, I mean, I've made it. Like, and I'm kind of interested in like what success looks like to you, like, and whether that's like, you know, relating to the National or whether that's relating to like beyond, like what in 5 years you might imagine success might look like.
I don't know whether I have an idea of success. I know the stuff that's made me feel good, which, or kind of going, yeah, that's the stuff that I will tell someone else when I am an old person, if I'm lucky to get that far. The bad life hasn't caught up with me yet. But I think that, you know, the press night at the National, like we all kind of, you know, gathered backstage, and Sarah, who played Kelly, turned around to me and just said, "Oh, we just made history." And it was kind of like a throwaway, glib comment. But I was like, oh no, like we sort of did here. And I think that was more important, that the moment was kind of more important than the work in a way. I don't know. I don't want to sound
totally though
disingenuous,
like,
but
if someone said to me, this made history, like that's huge. Like,
yeah. And like even things like, you know, Sarah hadn't anticipated that people would wait at stage door for her and want to speak to her, which is, you know, she's playing the leading role at the National. Like people will want to do that. It's just one of those things that happens, you know. And she didn't go down the first couple of nights until someone said, "Oh, well, there's people waiting for your autograph." And I was like, well, that's just indicative of the whole situation and the landscape, that we need to be empowering people and kind of going, yeah, like you deserve to be in this space, you deserve to occupy this space. And that was kind of what I guess success looks like to me, is going, well, what can I do to move things forward, however kind of small a step that might be. I know that I don't want to sound like I'm virtue signaling or being grandiose, because it's more, that's not why that's not the theatre that I remember. And so I think that's not the theatre that I want to make. I always remember that the theatre that kind of moves me in a way that I go, that, you know, it moves me in a way that I go, well, I'm different now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Well, I love that, because it doesn't sound like virtue signaling, because I think virtue signaling is always inauthentic, and like what I'm hearing in you is like, you know, a genuine generosity, and like success looks like moving the conversation forward and like making the landscape better, which is amazing. And like, yeah, it doesn't sound virtue signally at all.
I think that, yeah, what you're saying about like moving the landscape forward or the conversation forward, that's what we should all be aiming for, really.
Yeah, and it's not about your individual success or your individual name. It's about like humanity.
And it's about going this art form that like we all love. That's we want to do it because like there's nothing like when you're in a room and something kind of punches you in the stomach or kind of like makes you laugh because you go, I thought I was the only person that thought that.
Yeah.
And you kind of go like, that's why genuine diversity is important, because it's going, I think that the more you're reminded of the things that kind of unite people and bring them together, even if it's in a sweaty room above a pub with 40 people in it, you know, with no aircon, like I think the more you can remind yourself of things that unite you and kind of we share, I think that's, you know, that's why theatre is important, and I think that's what I want to do. I think, but also on the other side of that, there is a genuine place we're going to go and see this amazing musical. Although I would argue that musicals have a bad rep, and you know, get accused of being fluff, and I'm like, I don't know, things ever really fluff.
No, the amount of like graft and effort that things go into, and also just like people's voices, like how much you have to work to get your voice to do that.
I've always found telling a story through music and and lyrics, I think is probably the hardest thing.
Yeah,
because it's
so hard to write, but also so gives you such a feeling of elation and like pain. Like I think song takes things even further, so you feel things even more sometimes.
Yeah, because lyrics are like we're having to distill this massive thing down to a simple truth.
Yeah,
that lots of people. I think it's so hard where you know you can write a scene that says the same thing.
Yeah,
and as a one line in a song. I think that, you know. Anyway, look at me just championing musicals.
Well, I like sort of before we round off, I'd love to ask you like what you're excited about writing next.
What am I doing next? I'm on attachment with the National, which I think is amazing because they give you a desk. I've never had a desk kind of before.
Is that kind of like now where you like go to work?
Yeah, so the NT attachments are usually 6 weeks. You can either take that 6 weeks in one go or split it up. So I've split mine up 1 week a month for 6 months.
Nice.
Yeah, because I think that's better because I like time to think between doing stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm writing a play about Radcliffe Hall.
Yes. Oh my god! As in
My Love Loneliness.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my god. I
good.
would love to see that.
The excitement there.
Oh god! I'm going to talk to you at great length after we finish recording about this.
Yes, I'm very interested in Radcliffe Hall and kind of her life and her story, and also the fact that a Tory government colluded with the newspaper to basically squash a queer woman's career. That's what the play's about.
Obsessed with this, obsessed with you.
Thank you. So I'm doing that, and then I also want to write, and this is very early stages, and this is about finding the right person to tell the story with. I want to write about an intersex person who was assigned a gender at birth that they no longer have a connection to, and what that does to a family across a length of time. That's very vague, but that's my they're my two kind of things that I'm exploring right now.
Nice.
But we'll see. It's I'm just very pleased that, you know, I've got somewhere, a desk. I'm very grateful to kind of just have that space and time.
Yeah.
When somebody just goes, we're going to give you the time to think about the things that you want to think about.
Yeah. Is
often kind of all people need.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's not about having a huge amount of resources or a huge amount of money. It's just kind of going, we're going to invest in you in whatever way we can,
and give you the time and the space to like make what you're thinking about happen.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. And finally, I'd love to ask, what inspires you, do you think?
Oh, lots of things. I think I really, a lot of television. I know that's me going back to telly, but I think that a lot of television right now is doing some of the most kind of like groundbreaking form fucking kind of stuff that I think we can all kind of take from, and telling stories really kind of distinctly and with a great tone and sense of voice. And I think that is, when we're talking about moving the conversation forward, I think that there's something that inspires me about writing for theatre, and going, how I'm thinking about how can we tell this story in the most interesting way, because I think at the minute it's very easy to kind of go, well, I'm just going to sit here and watch this box set. Like to get somebody to kind of spend their money and come out of a house and go down to a theatre is really kind of is an amazing kind of achievement. So I think for me it's about how do I inspire people to do that and kind of invest in. That's a really maybe a crap answer.
No, I love that I ask you what inspires you and you're still extending it to others. So like it's still like, how can I inspire people to come to the theatre? I just love, like there's a sort of natural generosity in your mind that I think
you're probably the only person that would say that. So that's nice. Everyone would be like, generous? No. That, and I don't read enough. Reading inspires me, and I think that actually my aim for next year is to kind of do as much reading as possible, because immersing yourself in someone else's story is the most inspiring thing to do. There you go. How inspires you?
Oh God, I find this question actually.
And now you tell me.
Yeah, I think it's just like a sort of like love for humanity, which sounds a bit wanky, but like care. Like I think the best thing about theatre is you're sat in a room with other people, and a good story makes you feel like, oh wow, this story is important, and my story is important, and everybody in this room, everyone's life is important, and like just makes me feel really alive when I feel like people matter. Yeah. So I think it's just something to do with that.
Like kindness is one of the most radical things that you can do, isn't it, right now? And it's like when you see genuine humanity and genuine kindness and genuine connection.
Yeah.
I saw Come From Away to talk about a musical in the West End recently. And that just is all about kind of, in the wake of 9/11, what people did in terms of inviting people who were stranded in a town called Newfoundland. And they kind of, it was all about kindness and generosity. And it made me really kind of not upset, but kind of really emotional, because it's that I cannot remember the last time we focused on kindness, and it suddenly felt completely radical and political to kind of be like, oh yeah, we dropped everything to help these people, and I'm just like, I think the more we kind of encourage that through our stories, and not encourage a sense of separateness, but encourage a sense of togetherness, then we will have A, better art, but B, hopefully a better society. Fingers crossed.
That is such a wonderful sentiment to end on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. It's been nice to speak to you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening to Making It. If you'd like to hear more, make sure to subscribe and leave us a cheeky 5-star review. You can also follow me on Twitter @WilkeyWay, and you can book to see my debut play, The High Table, which will be on at the Bush Theatre in Shepherd's Bush from February the 8th. Making It is produced by Jane Ryan, edited and scored by Kasra Firouzyar, photography by Jess Ravel, artwork by Theo Banner, and hosted by me, Temi Wilkey. The podcast is supported by the Bush Theatre and London Playwrights, and is a proud member of the OneFinePlay network.